Hi, and welcome.
To Engineer for the Week.
In this webinar, we're going to explore
the Play for Impact project.
We are so excited to be here with you all today. We want to start with a quick introduction. So I guess I'll start. I'm Phil. I'm the Partnerships Manager, and I work with you all to make sure that you have everything you need to run eftw at your sites.
And my name is Jen. I am the Program Manager for eftw. I oversee overall program strategy and implementation, and I am the most excited about bringing eftw to different parts of the world.
Hi, I'm Dion. I'm an instructional designer at eftw. I work on updating the content materials in our project guides, and I'm super excited to share this project with you.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I'm an eftw ambassador. As a former eftw facilitator, I'm looking forward to help you and guide you to create meaningful projects.
Before getting into our Play for Impact information, I first want to talk through some housekeeping measures with our agenda and logistics. In our introduction, we'll be reviewing our vision and mission and also our facilitator checklist. In the next section, we'll be spending the bulk of our time with a project walkthrough. In this walkthrough, we'll have an overview of the project. We'll walk through our roadmap. We'll also talk you through how to use the guides and even walk you through an activity on Scratch. Next, we have a wrap-up. In this wrap-up section, we'll be answering some of your frequently asked questions and going through some next steps.
All right, we're going to jump into the program overview. The vision for our program is that we believe in a world where all learners have equitable access and opportunity to build their futures. And to do that, this brings us to our mission. The mission of Engineer for the Week is that we support historically underrepresented learners to explore engineering, develop computer science skills, and gain awareness of different career paths.
So you may be asking yourself, who are eftw facilitators? That's a great question. eftw facilitators come from all backgrounds. We have some folks who are program coordinators, who are nonprofit organization members, teachers, and even parents. And so wherever you come from, we welcome you as a facilitator. There are some attributes that all of our facilitators must have, though. And so if you take a look at the facilitator checklist, you need to be 18 years or older. You'll also need to have any number of learners between the ages of 11 and 18. For Play for Impact, 11-18 is the right age range. However, for Chatbots for Change, you'll need learners between the ages of 13 to 18. And that's because they'll need access to certain tools that will require them to be 13 years or older, like Facebook. Next, you'll also need a minimum of 15 instructional hours with your learners. For new facilitators, you might want to budget a little bit more time than that, so somewhere between 16 to 18 hours. For returning facilitators, you should be fine with anywhere between 15 to 16 hours of instructional time. Additionally, we have access to internet-enabled computers. This is important because all of our projects are hosted on a web browser. So you'll need Google Chrome or Safari, a web browser that will allow you to browse the internet to be able to access our projects. Next, you'll be choosing between two projects. We have Chatbots for Change and Play for Impact. So you should discuss this with your learners and also review some of our materials, so that way you can make the best decision about which project you want to pursue. Lastly, we have a belief that all learners should have equal opportunities to build their futures. While this is last, this is certainly not least. We expect and hope that all of the learners feel that they can pursue STEM as a career option or even as just a field of interest. You also may be asking yourself, when is eftw? eftw is typically offered in the fall and the spring, but check our website. We have a lot of information there. You can register there as well as ask us any questions that you might have about the program.
All right, let's explore the Play for Impact project. So what are the learning objectives? By completing this project, you and your learners will discover the world of engineering and work collaboratively on a tech prototype. You'll understand the foundations of block-based programming with Scratch. You'll identify and apply the 5 principles of game design: goal, mechanics, space, components, and rules. And you'll explore how games with purpose can address a topic that you care about and make a change in the world. What are the setup requirements of this project? So for time commitment, we do ask for 15 plus hours of implementation and 5 to 10 hours of preparation. So if you have facilitated eftw in the past, if you have a lot of experience as a facilitator, you're probably looking at the lower end of this range. If this is your first time facilitating the project, maybe even first time as an educator, you're probably looking at the higher end of this range. Learners should be between the ages of 11 and 18. You'll be mostly working with Scratch, which is block-based coding. This is a really good starter project for new facilitators in that it doesn't require a lot of setup steps. Chatbots for Change, another project we offer, is a little more complex starting out. So that's just something to consider when choosing between our 2 projects. All right, what are the project materials? You'll mostly be working on our instructional guides and videos found in the guides. These are provided after registration. You'll also need a Google account to access the program documents on Google Docs. You'll need a Scratch account to build the game together. And if you're running this virtually, you'll need a virtual platform that you feel comfortable with, like Zoom, Google Classroom, GoToMeeting, etc. I'm going to pass it over to Brian, who's going to share an amazing project he worked on with his learners as part of the eftw Play for Impact project.
So this is the Corona Time game, and it's a very interesting game for me because it's not the typical game. I mean, now the biggest issue we have as a society and as a humankind, of course, is the COVID-19. And maybe the first thing that comes into your mind is, okay, I will create a shooting game and I will kill the coronavirus. But this game is different. This is a serious game. Its purpose is to create awareness and a positive habit on the players. This game, you are a sanitizing man and you have to politely throw the masks so everyone wear their mask properly. So the playability is very fun, it's very easy to play, and most important, as I said, it creates awareness and the positive habit. So as soon as the players go out after playing the game, they will be watching this, they will be paying attention at this, at how people is wearing their mask. So that's why Corona Time, it's a great game.
Awesome, Brian. That's such an amazing project and something we've all had to think about during these times. And just an example of one of many topics you can choose to develop a game with your learners. So one of the really big questions we get is, what is included in the guides? And I want to try to answer that as best as I can for you today. So we offer 2 project guides for Play for Impact. There's the Facilitator Guide, which is the primary guide you'll be working on. And this includes all the resources you need to facilitate this project, the strategies, the learner activities, everything you need to get started. We also have an optional learner guide, which includes the videos and project examples for easy learner access. So if you facilitated eftw in the past, you'll notice that we simplified the experience for facilitators. Before, as a facilitator, you needed to have both guides open, and now you can simply work with a facilitator guide, which includes everything you need to facilitate the project. And so what better way to show you what these guides look like than to actually show you? So here is our brand new 2021 Facilitator Guide for Play for Impact. And you'll notice on the left-hand menu, the different sections for the project. The project overview section includes information for you as a facilitator to get started. And then the main project is divided into 3 phases: the prep phase, the sprint phase, and the finish phase, which I'll touch on in just a moment. So I'm going to make a few stops along the way to give you a really good sense of what's included in the guides and also how to get started facilitating the project. So in this EFTW overview, we have the project objectives near the top. And I want to quickly touch on each of these because they're a really important part of the experience. So by completing this project, you and your learners will gain engineering experience. So engineers often describe a product they built that helped them realize their love for building things in general. And so we hope EFTW is an introduction to the world of engineering and that you complete a working prototype that helps you realize that you can build anything. You'll also be engaging in sprints, which are these intense periods where you break down work into smaller phases. And this allows you to make gradual improvements from concept to completion. You'll also be connecting with Facebook engineers to learn more about their career journeys and really try to see how you get started with engineering if this is something that's interesting to you. And finally, no pun intended, but sort of at the heart of this project is this idea of creating projects with purpose. So you'll be together with a team working on developing engineering solutions to issues that truly matter to you. And this can range from online bullying to mental health. Any topic that you really care about as a team, you can address in your game with purpose. If I scroll down a little bit, I see this exciting thing called the Certificate of Completion and Impact Award heading. So one of the neat things about this project is when learners complete this project, they receive a certificate of completion signed by Facebook. And in addition, each team has the chance to win the EFTW Impact Award, which is an opportunity to donate $1,000 to a nonprofit organization of their choice. So in other words, through your hard work, you can actually benefit an organization that's out there that's doing really meaningful work. You'll also find the Play for Impact project roadmap, and this includes an overview of each lesson in the project. So as mentioned, the project is organized into 3 phases. Each one has 3 to 4 sections. And so as you're starting to think about implementing this project, we encourage you to come here and sort of look at what's included in each lesson and how you might schedule that in the time you have available. In the prep phase, you'll be exploring the world of engineering, learning about game design principles, learning to program with Scratch, and choosing a topic that matters to you for building your game with purpose. In the sprint phase, you'll be designing, developing, and testing the game. So this is really where the project magic happens. And finally, in the finish phase, you'll have a chance to reflect on your experience, both on the product you created as a team, but also the engineering process that led you there. You'll submit your project to Facebook for a chance to win the EFTW Impact Award. And if you have time, you'll explore resources to continue developing your game and pathways into engineering. All right, so I want to make another quick stop here in the project overview section to show you a few more things that are important to get started. As I mentioned, you will need a Google Drive account to access the worksheets. And let me actually show you what these look like. So if you access the Google Drive folder for this project, you'll see the different worksheets listed here. And a really important worksheet that you'll be working on with your learners is called the design statement. And this is a really important document where you'll define your game with purpose. So you'll give it a name, you'll mention what topic it addresses and why it's important and what players will be able to do. So in order to edit this with your learners, you would first make a copy, and then you would share it out. And now everyone can actually edit it collaboratively in real time. So you'll be able to see the latest edits, and you'll actually need this to submit the projects at the end in the Facebook submission form. All right, so going back here, there's also another thing I really want to mention, which is that you'll see the learner activities divided into 3 categories. When you see an engineering activity, this means it's time to guide learners in a hands-on activity to apply engineering concepts to practice. When you see a regroup and discuss activity, you know it's time for your learners to regroup and discuss important ideas, start a reflection. And finally, guided exploration is an opportunity to use prompts and questions to help learners explore a new topic. Now, as I mentioned, you can share with your learners the learner guide. This is sort of an easy way to access all the videos and all the project examples, but you can also choose to use the facilitator guide only and share out the links as needed as you advance through the different learner activities. Finally, we know that a lot of you are facilitating this project virtually, and so you'll find suggestions throughout the guides on how to implement the activities online. And we really do recommend that you use a video conference platform that you feel comfortable with, like Zoom or Google Meet, that allows you to share your screen, but also engage learners in a conversation throughout the project. So keep an eye out for the virtual tips if you are a virtual facilitator. All right, so now I want to show you what a lesson looks like in the actual project. So I'm going to jump here to the prep phase, and I'm going to select the first lesson, what is engineering? You'll notice at the top is a general lesson plan for you to review ahead of facilitating this lesson. So you'll find the lesson objectives. For example, here learners discover the world of engineering and reflect on what engineers do. You'll also find big ideas, which are things that we really want you to take time to think through and take away from each lesson. So for example, in this one of the big ideas is that youth often have stereotypes of engineers that discourage them from pursuing an engineering career. So they often think that an engineer needs to look a certain way or come from a certain background, and just that is totally not true. So this lesson is an opportunity to show learners that if they are curious about engineering, they have absolutely everything they need to get started on this journey, and that engineers come from all different backgrounds and have a very wide range of interests and abilities. You'll also find the lesson materials. In this case, there's a video link that you'll need to share with your learners. You'll find setup tips. For example, if this is in person, we recommend a U-shaped classroom structure so that you can have a conversation more easily. And if you're running this virtually, we recommend using a video conference platform like Zoom, GoToMeeting, etc. Finally, you'll find some tips and strategies that are relevant to the entire lesson. For example, the importance of promoting psychological safety. So this refers to the idea that when you're starting a new project, and in general, it's really important that learners feel safe taking risks and sharing their ideas with others. And so this is an opportunity early on to get together with your learners and say, we're starting this project together. Let's talk about what makes us feel safe in this space and how we'll be sharing ideas respectfully. We also know that some learners are naturally more outspoken than others, particularly if you're doing this virtually. Maybe some are really shy. And so it's also an opportunity to encourage everyone to have an equal opportunity to express themselves. Now, below this general lesson plan, you'll find the learner activities. So for example, here is a regroup and discuss 1.1 called Meet an Engineer. And this is a wonderful opportunity to listen to Barbara's interview on how she got started with engineering and how when she built her first program when she was younger, it sort of sparked this interest in building larger things and realizing how empowering it was to be able to build programs. So you would share this video with your learners, and after sharing the video, we offer some suggested questions to spark a discussion. For example, what motivated Barbara to become an engineer? Can you imagine yourself as an engineer based on what you heard? Now, following with the same lesson, below you'll find 1.2, which is form an engineering team. And I want to quickly touch on this because we get a lot of questions about what an engineering team should look like. So we encourage learners to get together into groups of up to 4 to form an engineering team. And these teams will be working together over the course of the project to develop a digital game. Now, a question we often get is, can teams be larger than 4? And we don't recommend it because we find that often teams that are larger are a little harder to manage, but also the collaboration and the work gets diluted. And so we think kind of 3 to 4 is a sweet spot for having an active participation, but also having opportunities to reflect and discuss together. Another question we get is, can you have engineering teams with a single person? And the answer is yes. You can successfully facilitate individuals as they work through. And we encourage even engineering teams with a single person to still have opportunities to have discussions with you as a facilitator, or perhaps other engineering teams, so they can still have that added benefit of collaboration and discussion. Throughout this process, you will play the role of a product leader, which is actually a common role in the engineering practice that makes sure that engineering teams keep track of their goals and successfully advance through the different stages of their sprint. So exciting. Hello, product leader. We're really excited for you to facilitate this project. Now, together you will form an EFTW team. And here's kind of a nice graphic you can share with your learners to see how you'll be working together. Now, I would love to explore all the lessons in this project with you. Unfortunately, that would take a really long time. So I want to quickly jump to one more that I think is really exciting, called Intro to Game Design. And one of the neat things about this project, I think, is learners are not only getting hands-on with the projects they build, but they also learn about game design theory. And that's something that we find learners usually get really excited about. So in this case, I'm going to jump straight to this activity called 2.1, Introduction to Game Design. And this is an opportunity to learn about the 5 game design principles that you'll be using to build a game. And these are goals. So what is the objective of the game? Learners will have to think about how the player wins or completes the game. Mechanics is, what are the actions that a player can take? So maybe jumping, moving left and right, flying, collecting coins. This is something that you have to deliberately think of ahead of time so that you can design the game in a way that allows for good game mechanics. Space is, what does the game's world look like? What world are the game's characters in? And so here you'll have a chance to also create game art. If your learners are into drawing or sketching, you can actually upload that to the game and have that be the game space. Components are the pieces necessary to play the game. So these include enemies, allies, rewards, such as coins, or obstacles, such as walls. So again, you'll have a chance to either design these or use graphics that already exist in the Scratch platform to add all the components of your game. And finally, rules are the instructions that all players have to follow to complete a game. And this is really important because if the rules are super confusing, then it's hard to know what's going on. So you also have to think about how to explain the rules to your players. Now, with those 5 game design principles in mind, I want to jump over to Scratch. So before we jump into the Scratch activity, I want to quickly explain what Scratch is. Scratch is a visual block-based programming language that lets anyone create games and stories by snapping together visual code blocks. And it's got a really exciting community. It's got over 52 million projects published. And as you'll see, it's very intuitive, and you don't need previous programming experience to get started and build a game. So now I'm going to pass it over to Jen, who's going to lead the Scratch activity to show you just how easy and intuitive it is to get started with block-based programming.
Welcome to Scratch. To get started, we're going to visit the website scratch.mit.edu, which will bring you to this page. And to get started, we're going to click on the Create button, which will bring us to the project editor. And today here, we're going to create a very simple chase game. So in looking at this page here, you'll see on the left-hand side, here we have the blocks palette. And there are multiple different types of code that you can click on that will let you do different things. For example, there are the motion blocks that will allow you to move something. There are the looks that will let you change how something looks, sound, adjust audio, etc. And then here we can easily drag one of the block codes, and when we click on it, it will affect what happens in the staging area, which is where you see the cat. Great, so let's jump into designing our chase game. So here we have the component of our game, the sprite. And right now we have a cat. And here we have the space of our game, which is kind of the backdrop in this platform here. We can change the sprite here or the component of the game to something else. And Scratch is amazing that it has a wonderful gallery of media that you can choose from. So here for today, we're just going to go with the octopus. All right, there you go. And for now, we can just remove our cat from this page for now. All right, then let's move into changing the space of our game. So here on the right-hand side, you'll see the backdrops. And very similarly, you can go to choose a backdrop and select from the wonderful gallery. And for our octopus to survive, let's choose an ocean background. All right, there you go. So now we have our component of our game floating in the space of our game. So we can jump into designing the mechanics. So Dion, what is a simple game mechanic that we can expect to move a character or a component around?
Yeah, so a lot of games actually use the arrow keys to move a character around the stage. And anything that you type on your keyboard in Scratch is considered an event. So let's explore the events category. And there's a neat block here called when space key pressed. And we can actually change that to any key that we want. And for example, let's try the right arrow.
Great, so here I have my right arrow key. So when I press it, I want my octopus to move to the right. So where would I go to change the motion of my character?
Let's explore the motion category of blocks. And there's one called move 10 steps, but there's also another one called change X by a certain value. And if we use that, you can think of the character or the sprite moving around a coordinate plane where we have the x-axis going horizontally and the y-axis going vertically.
Awesome. So now I'm just going to test this out, and I'm going to press the right arrow key on my keyboard. And there you go. You can see my octopus moving 10 on the x-axis, so moving towards the right. And now I probably would want to have it move left as well. So a very easy way to do that is to duplicate this code. And we can change it so that now it says the left arrow key. And instead of 10 here, what should I put?
Let's try a negative value so that it moves to the left on this coordinate plane.
So now I have my octopus and I'm pressing the right arrow key and then the left arrow key. And you can also see that every time I press it and the code is active, it kind of glows around this code block. So now what we have missing is the up and the down arrow. So I can then again duplicate this and duplicate this again. And then as I change this to the up arrow key, I know that I'm not trying to move this to the X anymore. What should it be beyond here?
This time we're going to change the Y value. So let's drag and drop one of those blocks on there.
Awesome. And I know that something is still off. I'm not trying to change Y by 10 for each, but one of them seems to be a minus 10. And which one should that be?
That should be the going down arrow.
Right. So now I have my right, the left, the up, and the down. And then we have change X here and then change Y here. So now I should be able to move my octopus around in all four directions as a simple mechanic for the game. All right. Well, the octopus seems kind of lonely and there's really no goal for the game, what it is trying to do. So I'm going to propose that we add another component to the game. And we're going to add a star here. And I want my octopus to chase the star around. It seems kind of easy though right now because the star is not moving. So I want something that will allow my star to move randomly to a position on the screen. So how can I do that?
Why don't we try the glide 1 second to a random position?
Okay, so now we have glide 1 second, and if I click on it, you'll see that my star moves to a random position in the space, but I don't want it to just do it once. I want it to do it the whole time so that it makes the game kind of hard. Is there a way to do that on Scratch?
Yeah, so we can introduce a new concept here, which is the concept of a loop, and you'll find that under the category control. And the actual block is called forever. And what it lets you do is wrap this block around a set of other blocks that you want to literally run forever until you stop.
So now when I click on it, it seems like my star is gliding forever to a random position on the screen. But one challenge I see here is that my players are not going to have access to clicking on this code block for it to work. So what can I do so that when my players do play this game, they can have the star go around without clicking on this code block?
That's a great point, Jen. And actually, there's a little button that is a green flag that players will have access to. And so there's a block called when green flag clicked under events. And that will trigger any blocks below it as soon as they click on the green flag icon.
So now I'm going to try clicking on this green flag, and you'll see that the star is moving around to a random position at all times. All right, so that made my game a little bit harder. And I can move my octopus around to catch the star. But nothing really happens when I do touch it, though. Is there something that I can do to show some kind of achievement or celebration when I do touch the star?
Yeah, what if we introduce another control block here that's called really an if block, an if statement. And we want it to maybe say something if the octopus touches a star.
Okay,
So maybe we can introduce inside that if then, maybe a sensing block.
Right, so you said touching. So if my octopus touches the star, then something should happen. I wanted to say something to the world. So where would be when I say something, where would it be?
And when you say something, that's a speech bubble that will happen on stage. So that actually changes the look of a character. And so you'll find that as a purple block.
All right. I would love for my octopus to say something along the lines of, I caught you, maybe for just 1 second. And I want this to, similarly to the star, to do it all the time and for my players to be able to activate that. So it seems like I need what you just taught me around a forever loop. So do it all the time. And then it would also occur when I click on the green flag. So let me try this out. When I click on the green flag, now my star is moving and it keeps getting caught on its own. But you'll see I can also move my octopus up and down. And whenever it senses the star, it will say, I caught you.
Awesome. And now should we see it in full screen mode?
Yeah, all right, so check it out. You can click on this button in the top right-hand side, and you can click on the green flag here, and you will be able to see my game with the components, the space, mechanics, and a goal of trying to catch the star. I do know that there's one more game design principle around rules. And I want to be able to tell the people playing my game what the rules or instructions are. So where can I do that?
So you'll first have to actually share your project to the Scratch community, clicking on that orange button at the top. And once you do that, this will take you to the project page where you can actually add instructions for your players.
Right, so here I can say use the arrow keys to move the octopus around trying to catch the star, or anything that you would like to include as well. All right, so now I've made a game. Is there anything else that I should do, Dion?
Well, this was an incredibly useful example of how to build a simple game, but now what if we wanted to take a step further and build a game with purpose? So what is maybe a topic that you're interested in, Jen, that you'd like to communicate to your players?
Well, something that was really important to me and also a hot topic in the United States last year was trying to encourage people to vote. So I would love to build a game that I can show people the importance of voting and encourage them to cast their ballots. Is there something that I can do to kind of change this game to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would try to change some of the components, maybe even the space, so that you can capture the kind of the message that you want to communicate, but using some of the elements that you already have in your game.
Okay, cool. So here I have my octopus, and something really cool in Scratch that you can do is go to the costumes tab here and actually change the way that the octopus looks. So I can envision myself changing this to maybe a ballot or an envelope that I can try to cast into a ballot box. How does that sound?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to choose the envelope, and you can upload your own picture here, and the size seems really big, so I'm going to just adjust the sizing of it to something smaller. And then similarly for the star, I'm going to change the costume, and I'm going to change it into a ballot box, and the size of it to also something smaller. And then it seems kind of weird that they are underwater. So what might be a cool background that I can change this to?
How about, let's say, an urban landscape?
Urban landscape. Okay, so let me try urban. All right, this looks kind of cool, so let's go with that. And let's see what will happen if I try this game. Oh, weird. It still says I caught you, so I may want to change the messaging of that. So let me go back to the code. What is a message you think we should say here?
What if we say, I cast my ballot?
All right, awesome. So now with the simple change, I'm going to show full screen this game and then click on the green button. And I'm going to try to move my ballot around, trying to cast it. And then whenever it senses the ballot box, it will say, I cast my ballot.
Awesome, Jen. So in like a course of 15 minutes, you just created a game with purpose. And so we really wanted to show how easy it is to get started with Scratch. You don't need previous programming experience to build games. And as you can see, it's a very intuitive platform. You also don't have to build incredibly complex projects. You can start simple and really guide your learners in experiencing how to use Scratch and how to build games using code blocks.
When it comes to collaboration, we get to this question: how do learners collaborate on Scratch? There are many options, but we encourage you on using one of these two options. The first one is screen sharing. As Shen and Diane did just now with you on a video call, one of you is going to actually control the Scratch environment. Of course, everyone should express their opinion and their feelings, but only one is the person who's going to actually code and control the Scratch environment. You can always take turns to do this. The second option is to use the backpack tool. That it's a very interesting tool. Let me show you. For example, here I have this game I made, and it says, when space key pressed, move 10 steps. So, as you can see, it's the most boring game ever. So, I want to make it funnier. And to do that, I want to borrow the star of the game that Shen and Diane made. So, I'm going to go to their game, and here I will find a button that in English says, look inside. When I click there, I'm going to see all the coding that they made. And we want to make this very clear. For us, copying the code, it's not cheating at all. It's a very important part of the learning process. In fact, it's the opposite. All the Scratch community is based on this, on the open source projects. So you can access any project and look and see and understand how it was made. So here I am in this project and I want the star. Look here at the backpack. If I click there, it says backpack is empty, and I can click on the star and drop it there on the backpack. Then I go back to my project, and here at the bottom on the backpack, when I click there, I have the sprite. So now I have to take it and drop it on my sprites, and there it is, the star with its code. So when I click on the green flag, it has the same behavior that Dian and Shen made.
All right, I can't believe we're already at the wrap up. In this section, we're going to talk through and answer some of your frequently asked questions. So the first question is, what do you get from this program? Learners are going to explore real-world engineering concepts. I think that's an amazing opportunity, especially at this early stage of their learning. Then they're going to get a chance to meet with a current Facebook engineer. That conversation, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is where they get a chance to speak with a Facebook engineer about the industry of engineering, and then also get an inside look at what those engineers might do during their day-to-day. Additionally, you all have the opportunity to win a $1,000 donation for a nonprofit of your choice. So once you submit your project, you'll be automatically entered to win that $1,000, and you'll donate that money to another organization. We'll talk a little bit about that later. The next question, what is the timeline for the program? Facilitators can register on our website during any open registration window before the next sprint begins. Typically, we run in the fall and the spring, as I said earlier in our session, but you can always use our guides to run EFTW, even if we're outside of a formal sprint season. So if you find yourself in the summer and you're looking for a really awesome STEM program, you're in the right place. You can still use our guides, but we won't be running a full sprint. So feel free to reach out to us using the Contact Us form if you have any questions about that. Next, what are the qualifications of a facilitator? Facilitators should be comfortable managing a cohort, right? So you're going to have a group of kids, or you might have a couple of kids. And so managing a cohort and guiding them through the lesson plans will be important, which brings me to my next point. Navigating the lesson plans is going to be critical. We have a number of lesson plans that will help you understand how to run the program. Lastly, we have learning with your learners. I really believe that showing a level of vulnerability will help your learners understand what the learning process looks like. Not everything is buttoned up. Not everything is pretty. Sometimes it takes really rolling up your sleeves and engaging with the material to learn something. And so doing that with your learners is always an awesome opportunity. Next, what type of supports are available to me during the program? We offer 1-hour trainings like this webinar that will walk you through the projects in greater detail. And you'll also have access to our private EFTW Facebook group. So if you go onto Facebook and you type in the search Engineer for the Week, you'll find our facilitator group. In that group, we have facilitators who share best practices. They ask questions, and the EFTW staff will be right with you in answering some of those questions, as well as getting support from our facilitator ambassadors, who are experienced facilitators and have amazing experiences to share with you all. So in the last slide, I mentioned an opportunity to meet with a Facebook engineer. This program is called Tech Connections. Tech Connections is an opportunity for your learners to meet virtually for 45 minutes with a Facebook engineer. I truly believe that our learners make decisions about their futures based on what they see. This is an opportunity for learners to see an engineer and hopefully make a decision about their future based on this interaction, this positive interaction. So I encourage you to sign up for Tech Connections. It is an amazing experience that I think your learners will thank you for years to come. Next, we have the Impact Award. You know, our project names are Play for Impact and Chatbots for Change. Not only are students creating projects that will create change, but they will also impact and create change through the award that they receive. The $1,000 donation to a nonprofit of their choice is a way for learners to understand what it means to pay it forward. This award is granted to folks who submit their projects by the end of the sprint. If you find yourself outside of a sprint season, unfortunately, the Impact Award will need to be awarded during a sprint. So you'll need to submit those projects at that time. Next steps. If you're ready to implement, we implore you to register. Go to our website, engineerfortheweek.fb.com. Again, engineerfortheweek, one word, .fb.com, and register as a facilitator. We'd love to know where you are. We'd love to know what you anticipate facilitating. And from there, we want to make sure that you have everything you need to run the sprint. So registration is important. Lastly, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Leverage our Contact Us form. That is a place where we will get your questions directly and we'll be able to engage with you and answer them the best way possible. Thank you so much for watching.
We really appreciate all the work that you do.
And we can't wait to explore what you and your learners create together.
Happy building!